Okay, thanks, Senator Deeds. Senator Deeds is correct. We're just going to go through the member budget amendments today. There are only 45 amendments. If you totaled up the dollar amounts on this spreadsheet that you have, it would be $190 million, but that doesn't include the projects that the Senate committee staff put into a construction pool, and that doesn't identify the number at this stage. And if you added those projects, they would be roughly north of $600 million. So you're looking closer to $800 million in total requests from members.
The construction pool is not part of this?
The construction pool is listed. We just don't list the funding amounts at this stage, so they're still confidential. But we can discuss those as the subcommittee starts to make decisions.
Okay.
I'll just go a few lines at a time, and we can stop any of those. The first one actually is an operating budget request, but it relates to the Department of Conservation and Resources Natural Area Preserve acquisition language. There's acquisition language in both the capital section and the operating, and Senator Hanger is proposing to modify both, but I feel like that is a capital outlay subcommittee decision on acquisition. The next three lines, line 2 through 4, are relating to the Fort Monroe Authority. These are Senator Locke's amendments related to the rehabilitation of historic buildings, a repairment of the visitor center and the museum on the fort, and then installing security cameras. We passed the bill for the security cameras just for members' reference.
Okay.
The next lines relate to the higher ed institutions. There's yes.
It can't be under. Is there any federal money available for that? Okay. They have. Sure.
National Historic Site by the Park Service. Yes.
Has there been any planning done in terms of what's going to be necessary?
Yes.
Okay.
So, is that sufficient,
Yeah.
Senator Locke? Okay. The next lines relate to the higher ed institutions. There's money for detailed planning at Christopher Newport to move their plant operations and their warehouse replacement. There's line number 6 are the additional $6.2 million for the improvements at William and Mary related to the historic campus. This is the water infiltration on those 2 historic buildings.
Okay, and this is that drainage, that $6.2 million amendment?
Yeah, we need that, but not because before the billions of people are coming to visit us,
But
because it's needed.
you need to take care of your buildings. You need to take care of what you have. There's no question about that.
The next line is line number 7 for George Mason. This is a building called the Student Innovation Factory. This would provide or authorize non-general fund planning for that project before they
What's the source of the non-general fund?
The non-general funds would be higher education operating, and I'm looking at Mark Smith from Mason.
Okay.
Yep. Line number 8 for George Mason is $12 million in general funds for deferred maintenance. Line number 9 relates to Norfolk State and constructing a living learning center and dining facility. This would provide them $6.5 million in general funds for the planning.
And that's the project we walked through this past fall. Is that correct? Or the dining room?
Senator Deeds, when you went with staff to Norfolk State, we did walk through the dining facility, but I believe this is a separate facility from that. That is a residential housing and additional dining facility.
Okay.
But this is proposing general funds for that, and typically those are paid through auxiliary funds because they are revenue-producing projects. Line number 10 relates to the University of Mary Washington acquiring a mixed-use office building that's right up beside the campus. This proposes $16 million for that acquisition and some minor renovations. The building would house their police force, which had to be moved in the fall, as Senator Deeds was noting to me earlier. Line number 11 is language only for the community college the community college system to study the feasibility of a CDL training center on the Blue Ridge Community College campus. Lines number 12 through 14 relate to amendments for VMI relating to improvements. One improvement is at the Newmarket Battlefield. The other ones are at Hennedy Hall, and then renovations at the Financial Aid and Admissions Office, which are historic buildings on the campus. Line number 15 relates to Virginia Tech's expansion of the Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine and the Biomedical Research Institute. This provides $2.9 million in non-general funds. This is already in the proposed budget, and so this is providing non-general funds so they can use their non-general funds for planning. Line number 16 is at UVA. This is $2.9 million for improvements to UVA's student mental health facility and building out some square footage in that space. There's $21.7 million requested for the Virginia Tech extension to improve Center Woods.
And where is that?
I believe Center Woods is on the main Blacksburg campus of Virginia Tech, but I'm going to have to research that one for us more.
They complain about all the students walking through to the stadium.
I don't know that. And why would Hackworth have that?
I was going to ask, I don't know.
Okay. Line number 18 relates to the University of Virginia, the construction for the Center for the Arts. This is $15.3 million for the non-general fund planning. Line number 19 relates to the Museum of Natural History, and this is related to an energy phase use plan at the museum. There's $2.5 million on line 20 for the Science Museum to demolish the workers' compensation building and then convert that site into green space with the broader museum's green space and lot footprint. There's, on line 21, $2 million for improvements to the Hiram Davis Medical Center, which is on the Central State property. There's $2.2 million requested for renovations for the Natural Tunnel State Park, the pool at the state park.
Let me go back to Hiram Davis. I mean, you know, number one, I'm curious about why Mark Peak has that amendment in, if it's not in Lynchburg or something. But number two, what are they doing down there? I mean,
it's a long-term care facility, and we can follow up with Mike Tweedy to see more about what they're doing there. Okay. Line number 23 is $34.6 million requested for Widewater State Park Phase 2 and Phase 3 construction. Line 24 through 27 are Senator Hanger and Marsden's request to change the land acquisition for the state parks and the natural area preserves. Currently, you have to have authorization in the budget before you can acquire land. This would remove that in some cases, and in other cases expand where they could acquire land.
you know, I think I've carried that before, but I think I'm not sure the park system really wants that. Senator Norman.
How would the process work if they don't basically get pre-authorization? No, my question was, in the past, we've required for them to have funds to do it. So my question is, if they don't have to have the funds, how does the process work? In other words, I would hate for them to lock in acquisition of real estate, and then we have very little latitude on the funding aspect. I'm sure I'm missing something.
Yeah, Senator Dietz, Senator Norman, typically they use the non-general funds, and so there's certain federal funds that they can use to acquire the land, but they have to have the acquisition of where the land is located in the budget before they can do that. They don't have to have authorization for the non-general funds to be used,
Mr. Chairman.
or the specific amount, sorry.
I appreciate that they can use non-general funds from a variety of sources, but does that then lock us in?
Yes.
I think that the thing is, that was the way it used to be.
Yeah, it did.
And because the acquisitions were made and then budgetary, the budget was locked in, the legislators had very little option after that. I think changes were made probably within the last 10 years. And I tried to change it back, and several years ago, and I think the folks at DCR at that time said, we don't think you want to do this. So I'm just curious about what's changed with.
I thought you just had a financial epiphany.
Right. Well, we'll find out.
We will.
Okay. Line number 28 relates to repairing and upgrading the Lake Shenandoah Dam. $3 million proposed for that for wildlife resources to do that work. There's $2 million requested for Department of Wildlife Resources to expand the infrastructure at the Virginia Fisheries and Aquatic Wildlife Center. Line 30, Senator Lewis is requesting $5 million be removed from the Port Authority for local dredging projects. I don't think the Port Authority is ready to move forward on those projects. 31, line 31, Senator Pillion is requesting $55 million to construct an inland port in the Mount Rogers Planning District. And then lines 32 now begin what are put into the construction funding pools or planning pools, so you won't see an amount listed for the confidentiality of the numbers, but we can go through the projects. So line 32 relates to a request from Senator Ruff for Richard Bland's construction for the Center for Innovation and Educational Development. This would be planning. Line 33 relates to planning. Actually, I'm going to go back. The Richard Bland is related to it, putting them into the equipment pool. They've already been funded for construction and putting them into the equipment pool, sorry. Line 33 relates to planning at Virginia State for construction of the Bolt building. And then the next lines, line 34 and on, begin the funding pool for construction. So there, at the community college, there's a request to replace the Buchanan and Tazewell halls in Southwest Virginia. There's a request to expand the Center for Manufacturing Investment at the Institute for Advanced Learning, ILAR. There's a request for the Phase 2 of the VMI Construct Center for Leadership and Ethics. Line 37, Senator Hanger's request for building out the satellite facility in Waynesboro for the Museum of Natural History. Senator Mason's request on line 38 for the construction of the Marine Operations Administration Complex at the Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences. At DBHDS, Senator Edwards has requested the construction and renovation of new facilities at Catawba Hospital. Senator Pillion is requesting money to renovate the Center for Workforce and Innovation at Mountain Empire Community College. Senator Marsden not previously requested the planning for Mason for the construction of the Student Innovation Factory building, and now he's requesting in this amendment to put them into the construction funding pool. Line 42, Senator Pillion has a request to renovate the Learning Resource Center at Virginia Highlands Community College. Line 43, Senator Hanger's requesting $9.9 million for the Stormwater Local Assistance Fund. This would put money in the second year. There's currently money in the first year for the SLAF program. Line 44 relates to allowing DEQ to give money from the SLAF fund for York County's Queens Lake. So this is runoff from I-64 and mitigation along I-64 related to Queens Lake. And then there's a request also for using SLAF funding for Falls Church stormwater flooding mitigation and remediation.
Looking back at line 39, is that consistent with the plan that Sam Rasool was put forward in the House of Delegates, you know?
I don't know about the delegates plan. I do know, Senator Deeds, there was a study that was conducted, and that was one of the options, but there were other options as well related to using the Catawba facility for substance use disorder treatments. And as I was mentioning, if you totaled everything up on this spreadsheet where you see a number, that's about $190 million. Those things that were either in a planning pool or construction pool were closer to $600, so you're looking closer to $800 million in requests from Senate members for capital outlay.
And while it's true we have $960 million worth of debt capacity, we don't have to spend that money just because we have that capacity.
Senator Deeds, that's correct. Just because you have debt capacity does not mean you need to issue debt to fund capital.
Okay, are there any questions about any of these amendments?
As long as you be in agreement.
Senator Deeds, that completes the agenda.
That's it, then.
Wow. You're efficient, sir.